Have you ever stopped to wonder who's really pulling the levers on the U.S. economy? I mean, it's not just the folks in Washington. There's this other, much quieter, but way more powerful institution that can literally speed up or slow down the entire economy. It affects everything from the interest rate on your car loan to your job prospects. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and really understand the Federal Reserve.
And to really get why this all matters so much, let's just dive right into the deep end. We're going to start in the middle of a full-blown economic crisis because, this is where all the theory gets very, very real. Just imagine it for a second. The whole financial system is seizing up. Businesses can't get the loans they need to operate, people are losing their jobs left and right, and honestly, panic is starting to set in. Somebody has to step in, right? They've got to act like an economic first responder, but who has that kind of power and how on earth do they do it?
Okay, now look at this, because this is really fascinating. It shows a clear pattern. See what happened during the Great Recession and then again at the start of the pandemic? In both of these huge crises, this critical economic lever, it's called the federal funds rate. It's basically what banks charge each other to borrow money overnight. It was just yanked all the way down. I mean, someone somewhere slammed the emergency button.
So, who is this mysterious economic firefighter? All right, let's finally meet the institution that's right at the very center of our financial world. The official name for an organization like this is a central bank. Pretty much every major country has one. Here in the United States, we just call it the Federal Reserve, or, the Fed. And its whole job, really, is to keep our financial system stable and the economy humming along.
Just think about that question for a second. Who has the most immediate economic power in the world? It's not some tech billionaire, it's not a CEO of a giant company, it's not even the president. The one person who can make financial markets soar or totally crash with just a handful of words is...
That's right, the chair of the Fed. This one person has an absolutely incredible amount of influence over the entire global economy. So the next logical question is, how is an institution this powerful set up to make sure that power is actually used wisely? Well, the whole system is designed to be independent. And this is key. Its governors get appointed for these super long 14-year terms, and that's done on purpose, to insulate them from the day-to-day political drama. The idea is to let them make tough decisions based on cold, hard economic data, not on who's up for re-election. They don't even need Congress's approval to act.
So with all that independence, how does the Fed actually control things? Well, if the Fed has a superpower, this is it. It's like they have a remote control for the entire economy.
And that remote control has a name, monetary policy. It sounds complicated, but in simple terms, it's really all about managing interest rates to hit two main targets, keeping unemployment low and keeping inflation, how fast prices are going up, also low. And trust me, it is a very delicate balancing act.
And here's how that whole chain reaction works. Let's say the economy is feeling a little weak. The Fed can step in and increase the amount of money that banks have available to lend. That extra supply pushes interest rates down. All of a sudden, it's cheaper for you to get a mortgage or for a company to get a loan to build a new factory. So more borrowing means more spending, and all that spending boosts the economy, and boom, creates jobs.
So you can basically think of this remote control as having two main settings, a gas pedal to speed up a sluggish economy, and a brake to cool down one that's getting too hot.
Expansionary policy, that's the gas pedal. The Fed lowers interest rates to get people and businesses to borrow and spend more, which is exactly what you want to do to fight off a recession. Then you've got contractionary policy, that's the brake. When prices are rising way too fast, what we call inflation, the Fed hits the brakes by raising interest rates. That makes borrowing more expensive, which cools down spending.
And you can see these tools in the real world right here. In the late 70s, we had runaway inflation, so the Fed slammed on the brakes, hard, raising rates to an almost unbelievable 16%. But then, in 2008, when they were facing a massive recession, they did the exact opposite. They floored the gas pedal, cutting rates all the way down to pretty much zero. Two totally different problems, two radically opposite solutions.
But this all brings up a really interesting question. I mean, the gas pedal is a great tool, but what happens when you've already pushed it all the way to the floor?
This is the exact problem the Fed ran into in 2008, and then, what do you know, again in 2020. They had already used their main tool. They'd cut their main interest rate as low as it could possibly go. I mean, you can't really go negative, right? You can't pay people to borrow money from you. So now what do?
This challenge actually has a name. It's called the zero lower bound. It's that moment when your most reliable tool, cutting those short-term interest rates, is just completely maxed out. The gas pedal is on the floor, but the economy still needs an even bigger push.
So with their number one tool basically offline, the Fed couldn't just rely on the old playbook. They had to get really creative. They had to come up with some unconventional strategies to keep the whole financial system from just collapsing. And this is where you start hearing this term quantitative easing, or just QE. It's a totally different kind of tool. Instead of just tweaking that short-term rate that banks use, the Fed started buying up massive, and I mean massive, amounts of long-term stuff, like government bonds and even mortgage-backed securities. By becoming this huge buyer, they created a ton of demand, which directly pushed down the long-term interest rates, the ones that actually matter for mortgages and big business loans. It was like they were injecting cash directly into the heart of the financial system to get it pumping again.
So what all this really shows us is that the Fed has this incredible toolkit with both conventional and, well, unconventional tools to manage the economy. But as we've seen, even those really powerful tools have their limits. And it leaves us with a pretty critical question for the future. As our economy faces new, unpredictable challenges, what's the next outside-the-box solution going to have to be?